The thing that has turned out to be so menacing is that it is not just these companies making these decisions on their own as an oligarchical despot. It is they are taking orders from the US government because the US government exerts extreme amounts of power over them. The US government can punish these big tech companies in all sorts of ways and have threatened to do so repeatedly in the event that they fail to comply. That's what the Twitter files was. That's why corporate media instructed everyone to ignore the Twitter files, called it a nothing burger. Because this is the dirty secret of establishment power, that the internet is being increasingly controlled and censored. If you go back and read the literature in the mid-1990s about the reason people were excited about the internet and its advent, they viewed it as a liberatory technology, as something that would emancipate individuals from the need to rely on centralized corporate and state control to communicate, to organize. It would allow individuals freedom to disseminate views without having to rely on corporations or state power to do so. It had the potential to be the most empowering technological innovation in history. That's what its proponents were heralding it as being. And instead, it has been degraded into its exact opposite by allowing the US government to turn it into a tool of mass surveillance. It became the greatest tool of coercion and monitoring in human history, and now it is one of the most closed information systems and one of the most potent propaganda systems in the world, under the control of the US security state and the US government, exercising that power through big tech, that has the ability to ban all dissent and all dissidents, to make them disappear. And that's what happens. And the more that happens, the more a prison gets created in the mind. That's how real despotism works. There's a prelude, an introduction to 1984 that George Orwell wrote that ended up being banned. I believe it was to 1984. It might have been to his essay about Catalonia. We'll check on that. But the essay didn't get published because the point that Orwell made was too threatening to the West right after World War II. What he was essentially saying was, we're taught that despotism means this blunt use of force. That if you criticize the government, death squads in black costumes show up at your house, point guns at your head, haul you off to a gulag, put you in prison. That is a form of despotism. But the much more effective form of control is to so propagandize the public that dissent disappears in people's minds. The prison exists in people's minds. So that you don't need to punish dissent because there is no dissent, or there's so little dissent that it's easily marginalized. And you've just turned the population into such conformists that they believe everything the government says. That is a much more effective form of despotism. It doesn't create backlash. It creates the illusion of freedom. And that's what the internet is designed to do, to create the illusion that you have freedom and you have choice, when in reality, everybody knows that there's a tiny little range of freedom in which they can function, and everything that falls outside the line, no matter who you are. Even if you're a heir to one of America's most storied and powerful and beloved political families like RFK Jr., if you step outside that line, set by the US government in collaboration with big tech, you will be silenced and censored and disappeared. Just to show you how nefarious this is, there's breaking news from today. It's a House Judiciary report. They are investigating the weaponization of the FBI, which is what that Congress is supposed to do. It's the first real investigation into the US security state since the Church Committee in the mid-1970s that uncovered all kinds of abuses of the FBI infiltrating political groups, monitoring political dissidents and the like on both the left and the right. And here's a new report. There you see the title on the screen. Just out today, the FBI's collaboration with a compromised Ukrainian intelligence agency to censor American speech. Here's what the report says, quote, on February 15, 2023, as part of its investigation into the federal government's role in censoring lawful speech on social media platforms. Let's say that again. What this investigation is, it's an investigation into the federal government's role in censoring lawful speech on social media platforms. The Committee on the Judiciary issued a subpoena to Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, and Alphabet, the parent company of Google and YouTube. Documents obtained in response to those subpoenas revealed that the FBI, on behalf of a compromised Ukrainian intelligence entity, requested and in some cases directed the world's largest social media platforms to censor Americans engaging in constitutionally protected speech online. The committee's investigation has revealed that the FBI, the federal law enforcement agency responsible for disrupting foreign malign influence, facilitated censorship requests to American social media companies on behalf of a Ukrainian intelligence agency infiltrated by Russian-aligned actors. Regardless of its intended purpose in endorsing the SBU's request, the FBI had no legal justification for facilitating the censorship of Americans' protected speech on social media. The FBI and SBU, the Ukrainian agency, sent Meta massive spreadsheets containing thousands of accounts to remove, including authentic American accounts. On March 1st, 2022, week after the Russian invasion, FBI Special Agent Kobnet sent an email to a Meta employee with the subject, quote, additional disinformation accounts. Copying agents Kellett and Chan, Agent Kobnitz wrote, quote, I have a few more Instagram and Facebook accounts that, according to the SBU, that's the Ukrainian intelligence agency, spread Russian disinformation. For your review and action as deemed appropriate. According to his email signature, Agent Kobnitz was then serving as the, quote, assistant leading attaché for Ukraine and Belarus. Agent Kobnitz attached 2 spreadsheets to his email to Meta. One spreadsheet contained a catalog with the timestamp, text, and URL for 15,865 individual items of content on Instagram, including post stories and reels. The other spreadsheet contained a detailed registry of 5,165 Facebook accounts, ostensibly suspected of, quote, spreading Russian disinformation. Meta suggested establishing a, quote, 24/7 channel to respond to the Ukrainian agency's requests. Although the SBU's list contained American accounts, neither the FBI nor Meta appeared to raise concerns about the provenance of the SBU's disinformation registries. Instead, the FBI demonstrated a willingness to support and implement the Ukrainians' calls to take down certain accounts, even though the request included US-based accounts. So let's just look at this graphic here, just to get an idea for what has happened. According to this House Judiciary investigation. So what they're essentially saying is that a lot of these Ukrainian agencies have been infiltrated by Russian agents. And as a result, some of the requests sent by Ukrainian agencies to the FBI, remember, this is the Ukrainian government telling the FBI, these are posts we want removed from the internet. Tell Facebook and Google to take this off. And many of those posts were written and expressed by American citizens expressing their free speech rights, and the Ukrainian government sitting in Kiev is telling the FBI, take that information down offline. Tell Facebook and Instagram we want that gone, Facebook and Google. So here you see the SBU, which is Ukraine, sending a takedown request to the FBI, which in turn sends our takedown request to Facebook, Instagram, Google, and YouTube. So I just want you to think about this for a second. You, as an American citizen, are funding the war in Ukraine. You're sending hundreds of billions of dollars, more than $100 billion now to the war, to the government of Ukraine, for all kinds of military aid and other types of assistance. The Ukrainian government is then turning around and telling the FBI to take down your posts because your speech transgresses the limits that the Ukrainian government wants to exist on what you are and are not allowed to say about the war that you're funding through your government. And the FBI is dutifully complying with the Ukrainian agent's request by pressuring Facebook and Google to remove constitutionally protected speech. According to this committee, sometimes these agencies are infiltrated by Russians, so some of the requests are actually pro-Ukraine content, but who cares? Who cares if they're infiltrated by Russia or not? The Ukrainians have no business trying to get censored from the internet the speech of American citizens about a war that American citizens are funding. And the FBI, independent of everything, has no business pressuring these big tech platforms to take down constitutionally protected speech. This is what the federal court has enjoined, has prevented, has banned after seeing the evidence that this is what is being done. Just to give you a sense for how frequently this is happening, here from March of 2022, which is the month after the Russian invasion, these little corporate logos reflect how often the FBI sent takedown requests to big tech agencies. Here on Tuesday, they sent them to Facebook, Google, and Instagram. On Wednesday to Instagram, on Saturday to Facebook, Instagram, and Google. On Sunday to Facebook, on Monday to Instagram, on Tuesday to Facebook, etc. Friday to YouTube, on and on and on. This is the censorship regime that the US government has created. These are not autonomous decisions of big tech. These are pressure campaigns by the US government, in this case, working with the Ukrainian intelligence agencies over what speech is allowed on the internet. This is a direct assault on the First Amendment, and it's even more offensive here because it's coming not from the American government, which would be bad enough and unconstitutional enough, but from some foreign government over which you have no exercise, no control, no democratic accountability, but which you are funding to a great extent. And while you're transferring your money to them, they're turning around and trying to censor your speech. If that is, you are a dissident to American establishment orthodoxy. If you're a follower of the Democratic Party, if you are a supporter of Bernie Sanders' AOC, if you like Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio, you don't have to worry, you're fine. These are censorship campaigns aimed at actual dissidents to institutions of American power. That's who gets censored. This is the censorship campaign laid out perfectly. It was already menacing enough that big tech was doing it. It was more menacing still that the US government is controlling those decisions, and to learn now that the Ukrainian government, which has in the past already issued blacklists of American journalists and American activists who they accuse of being Kremlin propagandists. I've been on those lists before of the Ukrainian government while my tax dollars is being used to fund them in their war. To watch them now, you can see the emails in this report. We hope to have on someone from the Judiciary Committee this week to talk about this investigation, but part of this report contains the emails sent by the FBI to big tech companies that specifically cite the reports and the demands of the Ukrainian intelligence agencies. To watch those emails and that flow of censorship demands and how it functions is really remarkable. And I think, again, what we have to understand is that this is a war on dissent. This is a war to cleanse the internet of anyone who questions US orthodoxy and to ensure that the internet is banned from being what it was supposed to be, a source of free information and free expression, into what really is the most potent and most inescapable propaganda weapon ever to be developed. It's aimed right at people's brains. And the idea is to cleanse it of dissent so that the only information to which people are exposed is information that American power centers want them to think and want them to have. And that is why I really do regard as the overarching cause the preservation of the few remaining places on the internet devoted to free speech. Remember, Elon Musk turned into public enemy number one. He was beloved by the global public. He was the person who was going to give us electric cars and save the planet from climate catastrophe and get us to Mars. And someone who has been a success story, and everything he touched overnight he turned into public enemy number one because he bought Twitter based on the promise to just allow a little bit more free speech, take away that weapon from them. That's how valuable the censorship regime is to them. And now you have the entire US security state creating vast tentacles to ensure that this happens. There are few remaining places on the internet that genuinely allow free speech. Obviously, Rumble is one of them. RFK Jr. has put his channel on Rumble because that's one of the few places where he can go where he knows he won't be censored. These are like outposts of dissent. And obviously, power centers are waging war on them. The French government, already Rumble is not available in France because France demanded that Rumble remove RT from its platform. The French government just reached over to this American corporation and said, we demand you obey our censorship order and take off this news agency that we dislike and want silence. And when Rumble said no, they were forced to remove themselves from France pending a lawsuit. Those attacks are going to come more and more and more aimed at any platform that is devoted to free speech. And that's the reason these platforms are so worth fighting for, because that is, for now, until we get this kind of decentralized protocol that Jack Dorsey believes is the ultimate solution to decentralize the internet, to put protocols in the hands of every person and not have it be centralized. And until that happens, the only outpost for free speech will be sites like Rumble or any place devoted to protecting free speech. And if those are lost, we will live in a world dominated by the censorship industry. And you don't have to worry if you are a good liberal, which is why good liberals aren't worried. In fact, they're happy about this because those are never the people targeted with censorship. It's only real dissidents, people who dislike establishment orthodoxies and who are opposed to establishment power, who are threatened by this, who are the targets of it. And that's how you can identify who they are. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update. Catch our full shows for free, live weekdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on Rumble, and join our locals community at greenwald.locals.com for all of my written journalism, exclusive after-show Q&As, and more.